Welcome to the Collaboration Conversation, a new-ish video podcast where Christian artists, entrepreneurs, and friends of ours can share about their upcoming projects and how they are using the gifts and talents that God has given them. We are so excited to share with you guys that our award-winning season 1 of the Collaboration Conversation has received over 11,000 views across our platforms, and we are just so incredibly grateful to our listeners as well as our guests. And the Collaboration Conversation is still under Project Brickworks' flagship umbrella, so to speak, if you will, which is a crowd-funded nonprofit ministry that we run as well. But we are so excited to share with you guys that Collaboration Conversation is now accepting sponsors for season 2, this current season, and next season, season 3 of the Collaboration Conversation. So we have varying levels of sponsorship, and if you're interested in finding out more, you can head over to thecollaborationconversation.org and click sponsor an episode. Today, our very special guest is my dear friend, Kaysie Strickland. Kaysie and I met here in Chattanooga at City Collective Church. Kaysie has a ministry called Homes and Havens, whose vision is for every woman overcoming trauma to have a home that supports her recovery. It is an absolutely beautiful ministry that I am so excited to share with you guys today. So Kaysie, welcome, and thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
It's so good to see your face.
Same.
I used to see, we used to see each other like every week for like 6 months. And even during the pandemic, because we were meeting outside and everything was fine. And then you had a baby and we haven't seen you in a while. And now you're back, which is awesome. I love seeing you at church and I love seeing the little man at church. And so anyway, it's just really good to see your face. And you are very loved, very, very loved by Nick and I.
Well, I am glad to be back. Can't keep me down, right?
That's right. Well, so I just wanted to go ahead and ask for you to share with our listeners a little bit about you and your family.
Yeah, so I am married to Brian, and we've been married for 10 years. We actually had our 10-year anniversary in the hospital with 2 days later Henry was born, and then 2 days later was our anniversary. So literally the day we got home from the hospital, and I was like, that was the most expensive anniversary we have ever had.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Yeah. So, I love Brian so much. And we have 2 little boys together, and Charlie is 5 and Henry is 3 months old. So he was just born in May.
Sweet.
And we're just still getting adjusted to being a family of 4, and but already like can't imagine not having this, little person with us. So so it's been, I'm coming back from maternity leave, so readjusting to the world again, which is kind of, I feel like the pandemic gave me a good runway for that, because it was like I felt fine just being small and going slow for several months. So it was nice.
Well, I got to tell you, you're talking about adjusting to your being a family of 4 and watching Charlie meet Henry for the first time. That video is the sweetest thing I've ever seen. It was so precious. And Charlie is just a little sweetie. Oh my gosh. He just was so excited to meet him. What was that like, I guess, for you to come home that day?
I was so like, that was, obviously giving birth and is hard, and, adjusting to a newborn, that wakes up every hour and a half, kind of a thing. You're like, whoa. But I, in my heart, was looking forward to that moment, because I have and I have an older brother too. But the knowing what like our sibling relationship was like, and we were all very close, so I know not a lot of siblings have that joy, but I just kept being lost in the wonder of like, these are brothers, like I'm introducing him to his brother, and knowing that they're going to be big and hopefully outlast both of us, Brian and I, and it's like, what will this is the beginning of their little forever relationship. And so, he was just so tender in that video. And it just like took me by surprise. Brian and I were both crying. Like, I was like, I'm going to need a second. Like, that was so sweet. But Charlie was so excited to meet Henry. And trying to understand the concept too of pregnancy and just like there's another person that's going to come into our family. And and it was just really special.
That's so special. Okay, so as you know, I don't have any children. How do you prepare a 5-year-old to add another family member? I mean, was there anything that you found especially worked for you? Because he seemed very well adjusted.
Well, there were weeks after where the real adjustment, happened as far as like not having complete access to us. And
yes.
And especially to me, because like he and I just do everything together. And so, with nursing or feeding or like my hands were full a lot. And so he had a little bit of adjustment with all that. But
yeah,
I think we're on the up and up now. But
excellent.
I think preparation was just like, children are very observant. So when he would ask questions, I would just try to invite him into that of just like, do you know what this is? Or do you know what's happening, to mommy's body and why my belly's growing and, just different things. And they ask like really good questions. And so it was just trying to run ahead of and open the door a little bit more each conversation.
Yeah.
To kind of let him what was coming.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, well, let's transition a little bit to Homes and Havens. Before we jump into that, though, did you have a heart and a passion for interior design, like growing up? When did you kind of discover that was something you were interested in?
So it felt random, I guess, to me to discover. I guess I didn't have a name for it, of my love for making a space. My mom was a very good decorator growing up, and we moved a lot. Like we would buy a place, and I didn't know that we didn't have a term for it back then, but like flipping houses kind of was essentially how we grew up.
Okay.
And so we would buy, I was like 6, like I didn't participate in the purchasing.
Right.
But my parents would buy, homes, and then we would come in, and my mom just had a vision for like, I think I could figure out how to make this space better. And so watching her, I think was really essential to my understanding of what you could do with space, because like I would walk in and we would live in a home and I couldn't imagine what it would be like without that wall there, but she could. And then I got to see it happen. And then you're like, now I can't imagine it any other way, So I think she was really essential to that piece of picking colors. I mean, I can remember just being little and like going with her to pick out tile and going with her to pick out a sink faucet, just that was a big part of our lives growing up. But decorating was something I did a lot to actually soothe myself, like after the end of a hard day or tension with work or tension with family or whatever that was. Like I found myself like, I'm going to rearrange our living room, or and like going to Home Goods or going to places where, home goods are sold, that lit me up in a way, but almost unconsciously, like I didn't even notice like, wow, this is really something I enjoy. And yeah, so it was kind of a surprise in a lot of ways, but now looking back on my life, it makes total sense. So
yeah.
I mean, I love walking into Home Goods. I resonate with that very much. And the first time I ever walked into your home, I was like, oh yeah, no, yeah, she's an interior designer. Yeah. It's like, I feel it. I looked at Nick and I was like, can I do this? And he's like, no. Not that he didn't love it. I think he was like, we have to hire a professional to get like this level. Anyway, It was just, your house is beautiful.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, we've never met before, so this is very nice to meet you. And this morning, as we were preparing for our chat with you, I watched the video on your website, and oh my gosh, I think it's the first time I was crying. And Sarah's like, "You got to go fix your makeup.
Like, we have an interview in 5 minutes.
Yes,
quit crying."
What a special thing that you're doing, and it's just amazing. But so, if you wouldn't mind, just tell our listeners too about Homes and Havens.
Yeah, so I started Homes and Havens, I guess 5-6 years ago. And really it was born out of both seeing a need in the world and then intersecting that with something that I'm really passionate about and love. And we create healing spaces for women and children in recovery. And then we also do that for local nonprofits who are also in the recovery field of working with individuals overcoming trauma or significant abuse or different things like that. So I and my husband would tell you, like, I did not want to start a nonprofit. Like, there was nothing in me. Also, I'm an Enneagram 4, so it seems very like, I was like, this is what everybody in their late 20s does, or early 30s. Like, I'm going to start a nonprofit and save the world. Like, I did not want to do that. And I had come from big ministry. I had come from big nonprofit. And I think my soul was so fatigued by a lot of experiences, but just like, I see God most in the slow, small works in my immediate life. And I think there's nothing wrong with like these big dreams of like reaching the world. But I think where I feel most alive is when I have a small circle of influence and I can really go deep and invest and give wholeheartedly to that. And so a part of me, when I started Homes and Havens, I was doing design on the side to fund what I wanted to do in these women's homes who had nothing. And so there was a lot of tension between that because you're promoting yourself, you know, you're like trying to get jobs and trying to make money.
Right.
And Brian and I were also not in a place financially. We had both previously lost our jobs within 6 months of each other.
Oh, wow.
And then got pregnant. And it was just kind of like, what in the world are we doing? But I found, like, I eat, sleep, breathe this. Like, when I set up a space for a woman who is graduating a recovery program or getting out of prison or getting, you know, just getting her kids back, you know, from custody or whatever, that I felt, I told someone the other day, because they were asking me about this, of just like, where does the joy come from? And I was like, it feels like worship to me. It feels like when I'm in a space and I've done all the preparation to get there and I've listened to her story and we've prayed and there's been provision for all the resources to do it, it feels like worship to me, because
wow,
it's my heart just pouring out on someone's walls or their living, or, you know, whatever. And in an effort to glorify God, but to bless my sister, who I may not know very well, but I consider her a sister on this journey. And so I think that was such, in some ways, very intoxicating for me, of just like the joy that I found doing that. And I hadn't really found any kind of work, you know, that had felt that way. And through a lot of prayer, I was just like, I don't know what this is, but there was such an attraction to it from the community. And there were more and more women that were coming across my path that needed this service. And so reluctantly, but with faith, I decided
You started a nonprofit.
Started a nonprofit in my late 20s, you know, it's like, here we go. And it has been a wild journey. And I have learned so much about myself through this experience, and continue to. It's just God working on me, you know. But it's been overwhelming to see His provision to make us continue and to keep doing what we do in our community. So
yeah,
that's awesome.
Well, so
I just was wondering, about how many women will you help in a year?
It depends. My numbers are off because of COVID, because we didn't have like our typical run year, but we've done, I think, close to 200 women or 200 individuals. And that sometimes includes their children as well, because we do the kids' spaces as well. But we've done close to 300 rooms since we've started. So
that's incredible.
That is amazing.
So you kind of mentioned a little bit about, you know, you meet this woman, or, you know, the kids or whatever for the very first time, and you pray through it and you hear their story. But can you walk us through kind of what the process is like from being, you know, I think you take referrals.
Yes.
So from the time you get a referral, through reveal day? You know, what is that process like for you? And you mentioned where you get the joy, but my other question that's kind of similar is, what's your favorite part of the process?
Yeah. So process wise, all of our clients are referred. There's no way for like an individual to come and ask for our services, only because Homes and Havens does what Homes and Havens does. We create healing spaces. So we're doing the design, the installation, the shopping, all of that. And I knew going in that I didn't want to be in recovery ministry. Like I didn't have the capacity to do that. So I bumped up against people who are doing what they're doing really well. They're offering services, they're offering rehabilitation, they're offering support groups afterwards. You know, that long-term care was really essential to me, to make sure that we were serving the right women at the right time in their recovery journey. So we partner with about 8 to 10 organizations in Chattanooga that their caseworkers can refer. The caseworker fills out the application for us. And so we have like that advocate in a sense, to know that she's going to continue to receive care even after our moving trucks leave. You know, like that's really important that she has what she needs to keep going.
Yeah.
And so a caseworker or someone from the organization fills out an application, we have a waiting list. And so as we move along and we have the resources to do so, we take a woman off the waiting list and we meet with that woman and her caseworker in her home. And that's our first kind of consultation with her. And so me or several of us from the team will go and meet with her. They're usually very nervous. I think there's a skepticism that's there of just like, what are y'all doing? And like, this kind of sounds too good to be true. And also a lot of, I mean, when you're overcoming such significant trauma, that creative side of your brain has shut down because you're in fight, flight, or freeze. You know, you're living in hypervigilance constantly.
Yeah.
And so even questions like, you know, what's your favorite color or what kind of things, like, they're having to access it. Like it's hard for them to access that.
Wow.
And some women had like space really matters, and wherever they've been, they've tried to set up a little thing and we just take that and just try to blow it up, you know, where it's like, you know, whether it's a woman who's always set up a little coffee stand or station in her house. I mean, I'm paying attention to like, what colors did she use? What really means something to her?
Yeah.
And how can we let that go into her entire home? So after we meet with her, we come back to the office and I start creating the design plan of just like this rug, this bed, this couch, this, you know, and then if we have any stock in our office, I'm like, this table, you know, we go through and tag stuff of like, this is going in her home. And then probably again, COVID, because we were able from consultation to installation day, it was about 3 to 4 weeks before we were
that's fast
doing that home.
Okay.
But with COVID, the shipping times and getting access to stuff has been really challenging. So we've had to go a little slower with some of those bigger items as well that are coming in on freight trucks. So on average, it's about 4 to 6 weeks we try for the residential program, for the residential projects that we do. Commercial projects are a little bit longer because there's so much more stuff. But then we schedule, you know, the move-in day where we have everything assembled at our office, and then we hire a moving service. They come pick it up. We meet them over there. The client is not up at her house when we're there. And then we set it up in about 4 hours. And it's every room is completely furnished, art hung, rugs laid, curtains, all that kind of stuff. And then depending on the client and the kind of trauma that she has had or her comfort with us, we will either stay for the reveal or we leave flowers and a card from us and let her come in by herself.
Wow.
A lot of, yeah, it's very overwhelming to have a gift like this and then open your front door and there's like 6 strangers, you know, staring at you for a reaction. So
right.
I just felt awkward doing that for a while because I was like feeling her, like she's trying to react for us. And I'm like, this isn't we don't do this for the reaction. Like we
Right.
do this to really deeply bless her. So would it be better if we left so she could come in quietly on her own and really soak it in? So more often than not, we're not there for the reveal. We just leave flowers and a card and just
so
pour a
sweet.
blessing over her, and then she gets to come in and see it. So,
Yeah.
and then we follow up with her caseworker, 6-12 months later, and just kind of check in on her and see how things are going. And then that concludes that project. So,
yeah. Well, so what's your favorite part? They all sound pretty great.
My favorite part, I have several. I think when we roll out the rugs, that's one of my favorite parts.
Rugs
Because,
are so satisfying.
You go from such this like bleak, and the rugs to me like are the pulse of the design, like as it goes out, it's kind of like from that place.
Yeah.
So just seeing like I said, it's all very spiritual experience for me. And so just seeing like even the way a rug unrolls across the floor, and I'm just like, there's this covering, that's extending through her house. And then I also love hanging the art, because it's at it's kind of like the final piece of it, and everybody's in their rooms getting like linens on the beds and, fluffing the pillows and all this kind of stuff. And then I get to go through, I'm usually the art hanger. And so I get to go through, and because everybody's afraid to hang art, I've discovered that it's a very crazy thing where people are like, I never hang anything because I'm just scared I'll hang it wrong. I'm like, just
put it on the wall.
Put a couple nails in the nail holes in that wall. It's not going to kill you. It's like, just do it.
That's funny.
I love hanging the art at the end, because it's just like the icing on the cake, and it's like the whole place feels, it's like it took its first breath, kind of a thing. So yeah, I love that part.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm asking all the questions. So if you have a question, chime in.
1,000 things. Go ahead. Go through my mind.
I was just gonna say, on your website, which we obviously encourage folks to go to, it's homesandhavens.org. Yes. Mm-hmm. You talk a lot about trauma-informed design, and so I would love for you to share with us what that means to you, but then also how you apply that in different ways with each individual person's needs.
That's a great question. So early on, in the creation of Homes and Havens, I obviously had gone through my own hard season Brian and I had together. And so putting together my own home became a very therapeutic process for me. And I picked colors, even unconsciously, that were soothing and calming to me, because I needed that at that time. And so when I went in to decorate other women's homes, my goal is to never make someone else's house look like my house. Like, that's the goal of success. Like, that's not what we do, because it's her home and listening to her voice and what she wants. And so, but I did start to wonder, like, if the way we designed a space and the colors that we used and the clutter we eliminate and the arrangements that we make, the textures we use, etc., like, if that does something psychologically, but also physically, like, do we feel certain things when we come into spaces, and could that promote someone's recovery? Could that help someone continue healing and growing? And, because it's a very like sensory thing, which is really important to someone's healing. And the more spaces I did and took into consideration, like the colors that they like and stuff like that. But overall, just try to create the most comforting, like peaceful, restful place that I could imagine. And every time they would come in, they were like, this is exactly what I was wanting, but I couldn't put words to it. And when I would ask, questions during the consultations of like, are there any colors you hate? Any colors you love? Do you have a memory of a place that, man, that felt like home? What did that place look like? Just different things. But also I'd ask, what do you want to feel when you open that door, what is that? What is the dominant feeling? And almost everyone says peaceful, like in some form or fashion, they will say, I want to feel peace. And that makes total sense. Like, that isn't that what we're all kind of looking for when we come in the door? And so I started on a rabbit trail of research of like, is there backing to this idea? Because what I'm doing is what I would call trauma-informed design. It's taking into account that a woman has overcome trauma and we're intentionally designing her space to promote healing. Like, is there a name for that? And is that exist? And I could not find anything. Like, there were a few studies here and there done for like rehab facilities or different things that, paint colors or different things. And so I continue to have a document on my computer that I drop research into as I come across it, because I'm like, this is a whole world of, it is not the be all end all for someone's recovery, but I feel like it's a very essential piece that can help a woman or family or child flourish in their recovery. And it can support that instead of like, space is just a reminder of a lot of things. It's a reminder of your worth. It's a reminder of what you love. It's a reminder of just so many things. And especially women who've been trafficked or abused in such a way, like their space, the way it was, reminded them of those old stories. And we're trying to rewrite that story and say, like, this is actually what we feel like you deserve and what reminds us of you and your personality and your beauty and your passion and your power that you bring to the world. And so, it's that, to me, trauma-informed design is taking into consideration all of those things and intentionally creating a space of peace and healing.
I love that.
This is incredible.
I know.
So this is completely contrary to everything that you're doing, but this would make such a great TV show.
Oh, right.
I would watch this every week.
It's literally contrary. The point is she's not there for the reveal.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. That just this idea of every week watching someone's life, you give them a new chapter. Oh my gosh. I love that.
Yeah.
Anyway, you're right. You can't do it, but I'm just saying I would watch it.
Yeah, that's right. So, obviously people can go to your website, homesandhavens.org, and donate, and they can help support your ministry financially. What are some ways, I know that you have some really awesome opportunities for local people here in Chattanooga to get involved. And so I wanted to open the floor and let you kind of share that with our local Chattanooga listeners.
Yeah. So, coming off the pandemic, it's been interesting. We're still in it, but it's, here we are. We did have things like painting day. We used to paint a lot of furniture, like people would donate furniture and we would paint it and put it into these women's homes. For a lot of reasons, we're kind of moving away from like having to store donated furniture because it's very expensive for us to rent, to hold all the stuff that we may or may not use in the year, kind of a thing. But we are launching something again this fall called Haven to Haven. And we piloted it last year and it did pretty well, but it's where women or men or families or couples who are passionate about what we're doing, in a sense, like create a meal or a moment in their home and invite their friends in to hear about like what Homes and Havens is. And we have a video prepared and, papers and all that kind of stuff. And so in lieu of a big fundraising event, we love the idea of women and families who are passionate about what we're doing, opening their own home and inviting people they think, man, this would really connect to what they love and what they're doing. And have that moment in their home help create a home for a woman in their community that is recovering. And so we had about 6 or 7 women do it last time, where you could do a coffee and dessert, you could do a dinner, you could do whatever. Most people who love what Homes and Havens does, like, have some kind of gifting for creating, like, they know it matters. And so they love hospitality and they love having people over in their home is important. So we're like, why not unleash like their giftings in this and have them create a special event that supports what we do and the women in our community. And so that's something we're gearing up with this fall, getting ready for November and December of having some of these host opportunities. So
that is awesome. And so you briefly mentioned this, and it's on your website, so I just want to double check. Can people still donate furniture?
They can. We have to see pictures of everything beforehand, and we only accept like mostly wood pieces that are in really good condition. And then, so we're running out of space, so we have to consider, like, do we have room to store this?
Right? Are we going to use this?
Are we going to use it?
Does that? You also have I just saw this and it was really cool, like a wish list. Is that something you love to invite people to participate in?
Right. Yeah. If you're, we have like a Target wish list and an Amazon wish list, and we have everything kind of picked out of like things that we use consistently, and you can purchase a curtain rod or a bedding set or a nightstand or something, and it ships right to us so we can put it together, and we know that we'll use it because it's like the stuff that we use all the time. So that's a really fun way to support us as well.
I love that. Please, all listeners, go do that.
Yes, this is amazing.
So, you just talked about in the fall you're going to do Havens to Havens again. Potential, that's what you're getting ready to relaunch, and it's a way for others to use their giftings. Which I don't know if you know this, but our podcast and our ministry is all about talents and gifts, and encouraging folks to tap into that and to discover if they don't know what their talents and gifts are, but then once they know, really cultivating that and learning that God gave you that gift for a reason, that He's prepared in advance good works for you to do using those giftings and those talents, and then also that we are building our brick, so to speak, as we like to call it. Well, as N.T. Wright likes to call it, and we've ripped it from him. Not really, but build our brick in collaboration with God for His kingdom. And so I just would love, obviously you have just this incredibly creative brain, but also this very business savvy brain as well. So I just would love to talk to you about your talents and gifts, and kind of how you discovered them, how you cultivated them, and how you're using them, in this ministry. It's a loaded question.
Yeah, let's see, how long do we have? I think it's interesting to explore your own gifting. I think that's a lifetime journey of exploring the things that God has imprinted in your heart and your soul to offer to the world. And I think for me, holding space and making space is essential to who I am. I find myself in every role that I serve in life, there is this almost unconscious making space, holding space, that I find myself really enjoying. And even looking back on past jobs, like I had cubicle jobs, for the majority of my early career. And I remember, like, if there was an empty cube somewhere or an empty wall, like I created like this beautiful, fun coffee bar area in every place, because I was like, it's a place to gather. It's a place to like get a beautiful cup of tea or a cup of coffee during your day. And I was like, looking back, that should have been a clue for me. That is like, so I enjoyed that so much. It did not feel like work, and seeing people enjoy that and kind of like, oh, this is for us. And I'm like, it's for anyone to use. If you want to bring stuff, that's fine. And but I think like exploring the different ways that manifests itself, and following your joy, I think it's such an essential piece to discovering calling and discovering gifting, because God is such a wild, awesome creator that how we would know what we're meant to do is by the joy that we have doing it, and I think that's just amazing. So I feel like I'm always rediscovering my giftings in some form or fashion, or, just letting Him reveal to me what He's equipped me to do, moving forward and all that kind of stuff. So it's been I feel like I'm still in the beginning of it in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Well, so one of the things that we have talked about with some of the folks on the podcast early on is what we like to call.
I actually don't know where you're going.
Sorry,
so I'm not able to help you. I'm sorry.
It's the
normally we finish each other's sentences.
Yes, I'll build this, and build with brick is what's stuck with me. Train up a child.
Train up a child. Okay. I'm sorry. I was like, I truly don't know where you're going with that.
So one of the things that we've talked about with guests before, and it's been a little while. We haven't done this in a hot second, but is the concept of train up a child. And that so resonates with me. We were really intentional with Sarah and her brothers on trying to figure out what their interests were and their talents and their gifts, and really kind of pouring into that. And obviously that's scriptural. That's not, we didn't come up with that. You know, we
right.
we were just trying to follow God's leading. But I really heard that quite a bit through your story of you and your relationship with your mom. And I don't know how intentional she was about it, but just that idea that she took you with her to buy the tile and to pick out the rugs and all of these things. I just love that. And again, I don't know the amount of intention, but it obviously served you very well with the gift of hospitality and compassion and the things that God has given you. So I'm just wondering, and you're super early in this journey, but have you given that kind of thought to, your little guys? I wonder what they're going to be like. And, I think Sarah mentioned that you're super into gardening.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so is Charlie.
And so is Charlie.
I think kind of the same way. I'm just taking him with me on these journeys.
I love that. Well, so what does he like?
So to answer your question, yes. Like, my children are like, I don't need to watch TV because they are so interesting.
Oh, yay.
Because it's just, there is such a curiosity on my part as a mother of like, what have you woven into the fabric of this human child that I have been entrusted with? And how can I cultivate that and release him into that better? And so maybe he doesn't have to spend, 30 years, like, what am I good at? What am I on earth for? And all that kind of stuff, that maybe by the time he is ready to leave our home, that he knows himself and he knows God and he knows what he's been equipped to give the world, and finding the best spot to do that. And so, yes, there is such a fascination that I have with Henry, but he's only 3 months, but Charlie more so because he's 5 and the world is opening up to him. And so, like Sarah mentioned, I love gardening. That is like a place that is very holy and sacred to me. And my time with the Lord is really spent best with my hands in the soil and tending to these plants. And Charlie comes with me, because I can't escape him. He will follow me wherever I go. He's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? But he loves watching the transformation of just like, all right, buddy, you see this little seed? Like, this is a carrot seed and we're going to plant it. And then we just harvested all those carrots. And I was like, buddy, do you remember when you and I were out here planting these seeds? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, isn't this magic? Like, isn't this crazy? And, but he, I think there's so much that I've noticed about him that I'm like tucking back, where I'm just like, okay, this was really important to him, or he lit up like a firecracker about this, or he did not like that,
Yeah.
So I think trying to collect all of those moments in my heart and, present opportunities for him to, what will he do with this? What will he step out? He's very much an extrovert, which Brian and I are both introverts. We don't know where he came from.
Oh.
He does not meet a stranger. And he's just very he's just funny. But
he's a sweetie.
And
you're
like,
right.
Wow, this kid is stretching us.
He's very personable. He loves talking to everybody. It's awesome.
Oh, I can't wait to meet him.
He's so sweet.
So funny.
Well, it just was so funny because I never took Sarah to buy a curtain or a rug.
Sure didn't.
Or, there's just things that wasn't in our world at all. We were at the ball field all day, every day. And that was,
And now my house is paying for it. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
No, but it's just so sweet to see, when you see a family and the mom and dad get it and they're pouring into their kids and, it's not all about making money or some kind of worldly success. It's really, you're intentional and you're thinking things through. And I love that, pouring into them. So
what is, you talked about what's happening this fall, but what's next for Homes and Havens, coming out of the pandemic? Is it just kind of trying to get back into that rhythm of perpetually being busy? What's next for you guys and for the Strickland family?
It feels like a very interesting season for us. I think it's interesting because like this past week was my first week back at work fully since my maternity leave was over. And so there's been a lot of prayer and listening to the Lord about like what are you wanting us to do and what are you inviting us into with this new season? Because in a lot of ways, the pandemic was very revealing to a lot of people about pace, about motives, about being seen, about all of those things. And I think since God for this season, has entrusted Homes and Havens to me as a leader, I feel a lot of responsibility over how we react to this next season. And I think in a lot of ways, people want to return back to normal as they remember normal to be. And that was I haven't heard one person that didn't enjoy the slowdown.
Right.
And so that was something I'm like, we need to pay attention to that, because is God asking us to go at a breakneck speed? And is a state of emergency really a way to live, of just like the next thing. And it's hard, especially in nonprofit work, because there are such sensitive, tragic stories that you want to rescue, for lack of a better word. Like that urgency is always there of like, well, her and her kids are sleeping on the floor. Like, can't we pull this off? Can I work over the weekend? Can I, and I think there is urgency for a reason, but I think rest is such an essential piece to what we're doing and changing the pace that we work. And like, do we really want to come back after this almost 2-year experience and be the same that we were? Like, I really hope that we've developed a lot of Christ-like characteristics and resources to re-enter society better. And our work would be better for both us as employees, but also for our clients and our community partners as well, and our donors, of like paying attention to them. And so I think there's a lot that's in my head. We're rebuilding our strategic plan, getting ready for 2022, which is wild, with different plans and strategies and stuff like that. And I'm like, man, do we really just want to aggressively hit this pavement again? Like, or is God inviting us to go slower and be more thoughtful, in what we do and how we do it? So that's my head world right now, is just like thinking through all of that and giving him permission to write the dreams, of like, I think I've come to Homes and Havens with a lot of dreams, a lot of big dreams. And I think some of those have happened. And I think that honestly makes you a little more sober in your dreaming too, because you're like, that, took a lot to pull off, or, a lot of resources or whatever. And so, and is bigger always better? I think like that is the question I ask myself a lot. Is big the goal, or is it being faithful with the space that we're in right now? And I think there's a beautiful tension in that, because obviously you do want to grow and you do want to stretch and impact the world. But does that mean what I think it means? And am I letting God inform the size and the pace and the strategy and all of that? So that's kind of where I am right now. That doesn't really answer your question in an exciting way, but I'm like thinking about it a lot. So
no, that's good. That's so good. And it's such a good word about the pandemic that you were talking about, just about how people are really enjoying this slowdown. And yet, all of our longing is to go back to the way things were. And it's like, well, was that better? And so anyway, it was a good word.
Well, so how can folks get in touch with you or connect with Homes and Havens?
Yeah, we are obviously our website, homesandhavens.org. We're on Instagram and Facebook, where we post a lot of things that are happening or reveals or, pictures of the spaces that we're doing. So that's the best way to get in touch. And then our staff, we have a staff page and all of our emails are on there as well. So yeah, lots of things going on, but it's exciting.
It's very exciting.
It's so exciting. And it's such a special ministry. You can, we can tell, and our listeners are going to be able to tell that your heart, just the Holy Spirit obviously placed this on your heart, and you have just held it with such care and such love. And it just pours out of you with every sentence. So it's just so special. And so as soon as we were talking about potential guests early on, I was like, okay, well, you have to have her. I was like, yep. You have to talk about her ministry. We have to share that with, I don't want to say the world, but we have no idea who's going to hear this. And so we want to share our friends and what they're doing, especially when it's something just so special like this. So, we're so grateful for you and for your time.
Yes.
Yeah. I really appreciate just that time. And then just talking with you ladies has been really special.
Awesome. Well, we love you. We will be praying for you and for your new family and for Homes and Havens. And we are just so excited for everything that God has in store for you.
Thank you so much.
And I will see you soon. and we'll chat later. We'll see ya.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. For more information on Project Brickworks, visit us online at projectbrickworks.org. Subscribe to our newsletter or text BRICK to 55498 to get the latest news and updates. And to catch up on all of our previous episodes, head over to thecollaborationconversation.org. We love you all. Be blessed, and we'll see you next time.